Good morning. We are coming to you from a stormwater retention pond, another one. I know we've got tons of these around the Tulsa area, especially in East Tulsa. This one is located just off of historic Route 66, and it's called Metcalf Pond. Today I've got with me my fishing buddy and mechanic assistant. It's awfully early. It's not too early by my standards. It's like 7 o'clock. It's already starting to get a little warm and muggy though, but it's a pretty decent sized pond. We've seen a bunch of big fish jump out of it. I don't think we've caught anything out of here yet before. We've only fished this place once though. So hopefully second time is the charm, and we will roll the intro and see y'all down at the pond. We'll start this morning throwing out a little spinner bait. What do you got rigged up? Oh, nothing yet. I'm gonna run these weeds over here. So we've got fairly decent amount of rains lately, and these ponds are a little bit more full than they normally are, which isn't bad. I just caught a weed. There we go. All right. He's gonna make up a bait real quick. Were you running a spinner with a crawdad trailer?
Yeah.
He's going for the big fish. Although some of these small fish will bite on some surprisingly large baits. It's a nice calm day though. It's pretty out here. So I'm still running without a spool tension setting knob. And I'm getting the hang of it. I'm getting used to it. I'm starting to like it this way actually, and I'm not gonna bother too much about it. As you guys recall, a few videos ago when we got this rod reel combo, we discovered the moment we got out to the pond that I was missing the knob to adjust my spool tension. I think that's what that setting's called. Let's just call it that. Got airplanes going overhead all over the place. But it is a pretty day. It is a pretty day. Right here on historic Route 66. Oh yeah. Already. Oh, stay on there. Stay on there. Oh, it's a little guy. Oh, you're a hungry guy.
Cast.
Nah, that wasn't the first cast. It's like my third cast. Oh man.
Look at this guy, he's chunky.
He's a chunky little sunfish.
Ooh.
Ooh, it's a pretty little bluegill.
First fish out of this pond.
That is the first fish out of this pond. All right. Now, that's, man.
You took a big old bait.
He did. He's got a big mouth. He's a big bluegill.
He must be like a year old or something like that.
Oh man, he just attacked it with vigor. And you are hooked up good, little buddy. All right.
He's an angry fish.
He's an angry little guy.
He's
All right.
Guy. He's like a tank.
Yeah.
He's big.
That is some pretty coloring too.
Yeah.
That's a pretty bluegill. Look at you. You're just a little monster. I mean, look at this guy. I mean, he's a big one, but even still, this is a pretty good sized lure for this little guy. Like we were saying earlier, he's fat too. He's healthy. He's been eating and gobbling them up. All right. Well, that's nice. Oh man, this coloring on him is just gorgeous.
It's like a camo color.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's a pumpkin seed bluegill, but it's hard to tell. Honestly, I've never seen such a pretty color on a little bluegill. All right,
picture.
We're done admiring you. We'll let you go back into the water. Here we go. There you go. See you later. And he's off. Ooh, that water's warm.
Put me a crawdad on here.
All right. Well, we're off to a good start. Oh, there's a turtle over there. The fish's spies. Matthew and I have this this theory that the turtles poke their heads up. They see what bait we're throwing, and then they go back under and tell all the fish. I don't know if that's true or not.
Grass bass.
Grass bass. But it seems like whenever we have a whole bunch of turtle heads popping up and looking at us, that we never get any bites. And they always seem to come up and check a look after we've changed baits. Let's go back over here where we caught that bluegill. That's a good cast. Look at this kid handling a bait caster like a pro. He can really cast that sucker too. All right, I like this spot. Lots of weeds. Problem is, you know, we have to drag our lines in through this muck on the way in, but I'm gonna cast parallel to the shore and see what's out there. Slime, that's what's out there. Lots of slimy moss stuff. All right, switching on over to this frog because there's a lot of muck and scum in here and I'm tired of dragging my hook through. I'm gonna see if I can run this frog in this little area here. All right, trying a new spot. Switch back over to the spinning rig. And we'll see what we can get. All right, move spots again. Gonna fish this area. So Matthew has been coming to work with me every so often, and that is kind of a benefit of being a business owner. He's kind of learning the mechanical ropes, but mostly right now he's learning the tools, what tools to hand me and when, and in doing so he's earning some extra money. And this is just an idea, not necessarily giving advice or anything on parenting, but you can give your kids something to kind of work for. So you don't have to, you know, take them to work with you if you can't, but, you know, give them some chores around the house and then, you know, pay them a little bit of money so they have something to save up for. And fishing is a really good, it's a really good hobby that if they really get into it, not everyone's gonna be into it, I know. Not everyone's kids are, but my kids love it, and they're super stoked about buying new lures and buying, like right now, Matthew's saving up for a new pole. Is that right, Matthew? Yeah, he's saving up for a new pole because he wants to, he bought this reel, this bait caster that's on this pole. He did have a spinning reel on that pole, and so now he has a spinning reel with no pole to go on, for it to go on. So he's working on getting another pole so he can have two setups. And you know, it's just something good, you know, kind of teaches the value of the dollar, and gives them some work ethic, something to work for, something to work towards. And it may not be fishing with your kids, it may be something else, maybe, I don't know, video games or, you know, whatever, but doesn't necessarily have to be fishing. Just an idea. I mean, I'm no parent expert. I mean, I'm just practicing on him. He's my first one, so at this point, he's the test run. So we'll see how he turns out in a few years, if he's any good. I don't know. He's pretty good right now, but he's not a teenager yet. That's when they become problematic. So, if I recall correctly, it's been a while since I've been a teenager. But I started him off with some basics in his tackle box, and then told him that he's gonna have to get his own gear from now on, instead of, you know, borrowing all my lures, and because he kept wanting to use my lures and all that stuff. And plus, this way you don't have to worry about your lures and baits and stuff getting hung up in some weeds somewhere because your kids cast directly into a brush pile and immediately got hooked. It's their stuff that gets. And you know what I've noticed? What's really strange is, since he's been buying his own tackle, he has very rarely got snagged, and I don't think he's honestly lost a single rig in the brush piles since he started buying his own stuff. So that's kind of something to think about.
Hey, not Albert.
Oh, and him and his brother are the master at finding tackle on the bank shores and stuff like that, and it's kind of a good thing. It's a two-part thing. One, they get free tackle, and two, kind of clean up the shores from fishermen who left their plastics behind. I'd be willing to bet that about half of his tackle box right now is comprised of found lures and rigs and plastics and stuff that he found. And I know his younger brother's is mostly salvaged tackle.
One lure that he bought.
Yeah, he only bought one lure, and he has like 15 lures.
Yeah.
Spot. There's a little bay here, or kind of little cove area. We got the wind at our backs, so we can kind of cast across it and drag our lures across this little cove. So one thing I really like about braid, and I know I've talked about this particular line, this high vis, we've already talked about that, but one thing I like about braid versus mono is a couple of things, actually. One, like, I can really feel what's going on at the end of my line because there's just no stretch in the braid. And they've got their pros and cons. I mean, that's one thing, you know, since there is no stretch, you don't have as much kind of give to your line, and so setting the hook, it's kind of an instantaneous thing. So, you know, switching from mono or fluoro over to braid is like learning a little bit more, you know, a little bit of a skill. But having that no stretch on there, even with some pretty heavy line like I've got, which even though it's heavy, it's 80-pound test, but it has the diameter of 20-pound mono, so it's not real crazy line. But that's another thing too, is it's really strong line, so I don't really break off too easily. And I'm not so concerned with fish breaking it off as much as sometimes you get tangled in like a tree or something like that, or on a twig, and all you have to do, you know, is you can just yank it and break that, snap that twig, and keep your lure and your line. As opposed to if you're running something like 12-pound test where it doesn't take a whole lot to snap it, or, you know, 8-pound or something like that. So that's a benefit to mono, is you don't have to have as light of line to be able to feel what's going on. So if you have mono, you know, the lighter the line, you can really kind of feel what's going on down there. And another thing is you can run a slightly heavier action rod and still feel what's going on down there. So this isn't a heavy action. I believe it is medium heavy. So it's heavier than my other fishing rod, my Ugly Stick. I can still feel what's going on. So having this heavier rod is nice because I can really set some hooks in, and it's a little bit longer, so I can also really sling that lure out a little bit further. But with braid on it, it allows me to kind of feel what's going on the end there. So, and you'll learn, you know, as you go. If you're new to fishing, you'll kind of learn what feels like a bite and what's not a bite. If you're running on some rocks, or if you're running across some brush, or if you're hitting into some weeds, I can feel the difference in all of those most of the time. On occasion, you hit like a series of rocks that just feels like a bite, and it's not really. But, ooh, there's a fish jumped out there. But more often than not, once you kind of get the hang of it, you can really feel what's going on down there, and that'll tell you whether or not to set the hook. Typically when a fish bites it, you feel like a series of bites, because they don't always just hit once and then move off. You kind of feel the line vibrating, and and that'll let you know when to set the hook, versus if you just hit a weed and it's just that one hit and then it keeps on going. And so you'll kind of feel the difference. Real hard to describe, and like I said, I'm not a professional fisherman. I just do it a lot, and so I've picked up a thing or two. There's several things that I do that are wrong, that are not traditionally what you're supposed to do, I guess, and some things that I do that are wrong that work. Like you're not supposed to go bass fishing or fish for even sunfish with 80-pound high-vis line. Apparently the line's supposed to scare them away, but it doesn't. You're not supposed to use a swivel at the end. You're supposed to just tie your lure on. I don't like to do that. I like to be able to carry one pole with me whenever I'm fishing on the go, so that and that swivel allows me to switch lures a little bit easier. But you don't have to do things the way I do it. I'm just saying how I do it and the benefits of that to me, and you can decide on your own how you want to rig your setup and all that. Don't necessarily take my advice as though I'm some sort of professional, because I'm not. Just saying what my experience is, how it's worked for me, benefits. Sometimes there's downsides, and there really is on some of my setups. And you guys have never seen me cast a spinning reel. Not that I don't have. I have one. I like it. I just kind of have it set up for catfish. It's a bigger reel, bigger setup. It doesn't cast as far either as my bait caster, so I use it for catfish. But if you ever do see me casting a spinning reel, you will notice that I cast it backwards. And when I say backwards, I mean the reel is on the top of the rod instead of underneath like everyone else does. And that's a combination of having never been taught how to use it, and I just kind of figured it out on my own, and that seemed to me to be the natural way, because every other reel is set up on the top of the rod, so why wouldn't that one be? I didn't know any better, and I started fishing that way, and that's just how I fish now, with a spinning reel. And that's how I've taught my kids as well, because I didn't necessarily teach them do it this way. I just showed them how to do it, and they just followed what I do. So I'm raising a bunch of generations. This could be generations of people using the spinning reel backwards. Maybe I'm starting a movement, I don't know. Maybe 30 years, 40 years in the future, that's how everyone's going to be casting them. I don't know. I honestly think that's the way that makes the most sense, because it's the only reel that you would set up on the bottom of the rod. And it's also the only reel that right-handed fishermen would reel in left-handed. You know, I know you can switch the handle around, but a lot of times people don't, and they just reel it left-handed so that they can cast with the one hand and not have to change hands whenever they're casting. There's just fish just kind of flopping around right in front of us, but I don't know what they are. I don't know if they're catfish just nomming at the top of the water, which though is not common of them. They're typically bottom feeders. I have seen them suck ducklings down.
No, I did. I jumped out of the water and ate
Yeah,
ducklings.
so they do eat at the top of the water on occasion. All right, new spot. We'll fish here for a little bit. So I've seen a few videos on how to run your lure and the speed at which to do them. This is just kind of my take on it. So every reel is going to be different. You've got different gear ratios. You may have a 6-to-1 gear ratio where I've got a 7.5-to-1, I think, or something like that. It's on here somewhere, I imagine, but maybe it's 8.5, no, not 8, 7.5-to-1, whatever. So, and I've noticed, like with this reel versus my other reel, my Quantum, my red one, I have to reel this a little bit slower to get the same speed, because if I reel it as fast as I reel the other one, I'm just yanking this at the top of the water. So when you're running a spinning reel, or spinning bait, there is really honestly no wrong way to fish it. If you are just kind of casting it out and slowly, you know, and reeling it in, don't, you know, hyper speed it. But you can, that's the thing. Your fishing depth will be very dependent upon how fast you reel it. If you reel it slower, it's going to sink a little bit further. If you reel it faster, it's gonna go up higher. And you can really crank on it and get this thing up at the top of the water if you really wanted to. There's really no real wrong way to fish it. It just all depends on the mood of the bass and what the bass are doing in your specific spot at that specific day. And so if you notice you're not really getting any bites on running it really slow, maybe try running it a little bit faster. When the water is warmer, they tend to be a little bit more aggressive, and they are going to go after, you know, a more aggressive presentation, as you'd call it. Also, another thing to keep in mind, if you've got a whole bunch of junk at the bottom on the of where you're fishing at that you want to stay out of and you don't want to snag on things, run it just a little bit faster. Keep it up off the bottom a little bit. Or if you don't really, you know, you want to fish lower, slower and slower, that's all. And I like to add a little twitch or two at the end of my line on occasion. Just kind of twitch it. Kind of just makes the movement of the bait a little bit more sporadic, kind of like a fish in you know, that's injured or something like that. And then there's, you know, you don't have to do a constant reel either. You can do a reel, twitch, pause, reel, twitch, pause. You just mix it up, do whatever you want to do. That's why I like the spinning bait, because I'm not a pro. I am an amateur. It works in multitude of scenarios and plenty of different water conditions, whether it be murky water, clear water, cold water, warm water. It just works. I like to add a trailer to my spinning bait. Instead of just having the skirt and the bare hook, it gives the fish something to kind of target, to bite at, right at the hook. It has increased my ability to, because I would get a ton of bites on this spinning bait, and they would be biting the wrong spot. Sometimes they would bite at this spinner, this little leaf here, that would, you know, because they'd see it moving, it's shiny, and they would bite at that and result in no hookup. So you add this little trailer here, which you can get, you know, any smaller soft plastic and run it onto your hook. And I like this one because it gives it another swimming action as well. So if my spinner gets fouled up or tangled up and it stops spinning, this little tail is still spinning, giving vibrations and something for the fish to target as well, versus just a lifeless bait kind of moving through the water without any action. So I like to run something with a swimming tail of some kind. It doesn't have to be this exact bait. I think I've mentioned it before, I picked this color combo because it works in a multitude of scenarios. You got the June bug for darker darker water, murkier water, and the chartreuse for clearer water. So depending upon the condition, the fish is going to see something on this rig. And you know, that's the lazy kind of way to do it. You're not having to change baits as much. So if you're unsure on bass fishing, pick something like this where we've got a good color combination for multiple scenarios. You've got the spinning action, so it creates vibration and flashes in the water, and then add a swimming trailer of some kind on it, and you just really can't go wrong with it. That's a good kind of beginner's bait to start with, in my opinion. And it's good for, you know, even the tried and true, tested, seasoned fishing veterans out there. If you want a good all-around bait that works in multiple conditions, that's I think the way to go. And as you've seen on this channel, we'll catch multiple species. We've caught bluegill with it, we've caught bass with it, and didn't catch it on camera, but my wife caught a turtle with it. So you can catch just about anything. Always on the go with bass fishing, kind of moving around the bank, fishing different banks. And I feel like there's a ton of moss in here, so I don't think we're gonna fish this very long at all. I could feel the moss on the end of my line. Oh, look at that. Oh, yeah, let's find another spot. Thought it was gonna be warmer, but then the breeze kind of picked up. Actually feels kind of nice this morning. Nice day. Nice start to your day. What was that? Was a big fish. Is what that? No, that was a turtle. Turtles. Get me every time. Take a gander at this gander. There's a couple of there's a duck hanging out in here with this gander of geese. I wonder if he knows that he's not a goose. You are very much a duck, kind sir. Don't mind us just passing through. Y'all have a lovely day now. Looky here, found a couple of sweet looking little families. Those goslings got big in the last couple of weeks. They got big. These guys were just little tiny ones. And look at these guys. These guys got feathers now. They're all feathered up. Oh, I'm getting hissed at. I'm not here to take your babies. You just have a nice day. A nice, lovely day. All right, we have come full circle. And we're gonna end our morning fishing expedition in the same place that we began it. And just fish this for a little bit. Well, it was a good day. We caught a fish, and he was a pretty fish, probably the prettiest bluegill I've ever seen, personally. And it was a nice day out here in the pond. Weather wasn't too bad. It's only just now starting to get warm. Matthew had a good day. Yeah. And now it's off to go to work. So like, comment, subscribe, or dislike. If you don't like it, don't want you to click that like button. You better hit the dislike button if you're not a fan of it. Comment, let me know if there's anything that you guys want to see specifically, and subscribe so you can get more videos of us going out fishing local areas, urban waterways, and the likes of that, and join us on our misadventures. So until the next time, the next adventure, and I hope you guys get into it and start fishing every day.